Hello and welcome to the Savvy or Surrender podcast. My name is Stephen Young. I am your host and owner of Savvy Tax Strategies and Bookkeeping, and of course, do this podcast to help others know more about their money, to be savvy and not surrender. We never want to surrender. We're going to talk about today the episode 17. The year in review. This is the second to last day of the year that I'm recording this. You're probably going to see this on, or at least it's going to be released to you on New Year's Eve. And so, let's focus here on, hang on a second, technical difficulties. We gotta get this right. Let's try this again. Baby, let's go. All right. 2026, we're ranging Benjamins coming into 2026. But let's first talk about 2025. And this episode's going to be a little bit different. For the past 16 episodes, I've talked about profit first, income taxes, how to use strategies to avoid some of the income taxes. Profit first, business credit. Last week's episode 16, check it out with my guest, Jimmy Rios, talking about business credit and how you can get some of that. We talked about different cash flow strategies, and we're just getting started. I'm really looking forward to continuing to build this podcast. We're going to talk a little bit more about it, about what worked, what didn't work, but let's get into the year in review, and we're going to start with money. We're going to start with what worked. And so for me, in my business, in the Savvy Tax Strategies and Bookkeeping, we had 570% growth in 2025. So it started off January 1st, 2025. I was still a part-time in the business. I had moved into a SBA assisted office, meaning I had this bigger office, no separation, conference room, and everything was all together. But the rent was kind of assisted by or subsisted by the SBA. To help business owners to be able to launch. And that's really the goal of that building, is to launch businesses into the real world, into having their own business or having their own building and things like that. Now, there have been people in that business, in that building for years now, and it feels like they're never going to launch. They enjoy the rent control, basically. I moved out. I was there for 8 months, and then I moved into this new building here in June. I originally tried to buy it and that fell through, but then I decided to rent it. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that too. Anyways, so it was part-time. I had one part-time bookkeeper on January 1st, 2025. And now I have 4 employees. I have 2 bookkeepers, an accountant, a client coordinator / marketing / assistant. She's a little bit of everything. Thank you, Katie. Appreciate all you do while she has the task of editing these podcasts and has to listen to me in her ear over and over and over again. It's got to be horrible. I can only imagine. My wife would never do it, that's for sure. But Katie does a great job. I appreciate her. And on January 5th, I'm actually getting her kind of like an assistant. We're getting a marketing person from the Philippines that's going to be working on a lot of the different social media and content that's going to go into the podcast, or to be able to help podcast listeners get more information out of us. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be very helpful in growing the podcast, growing the social media business side of the business that we have. Okay, so gross income. January 2024, I closed my business, first full year in business. $57,000 is what I had done. About 50 tax returns or so in 2024, and the rest came from bookkeeping, cleanups, things like that. 2025, we did about 173 tax returns, and then the rest bookkeeping, all that kind of stuff. We will close the year with one more day. It looks like we'll close right at about $325,000. So 573% growth, somewhere around there, 570% growth. Not too bad in a year, I would say. I'm pretty happy with it. My goal when I was trying to buy this building was that I put down that I would close the year at $254,000. So I beat my estimate by about $75,000. And honestly, when I put 254, I thought that was a stretch. So I think I said in fact, actually, I have it right here. In 2026, I said I was going to do $351,000. So here's my projections. Actually, I'll just go ahead and share it real quick. Here's my projections. This is kind of an SBA type spreadsheet. If this is giving you, if it's just like a bunch of gobbledygook, I'm sure probably that would make sense. But this is for the next year. So for 2026, I was saying that I would do $351,000 in year one here. And this is, of course, great entertainment for somebody who is on YouTube. You can actually see this spreadsheet. If you're just listening to this on the podcast, basically I am showing a spreadsheet that just shows the numbers, a breakdown. This is what I had to fill out to be able to get an SBA loan to be able to buy my office space. So here you can see I estimated that I would do $254,000 in income for 2025. And so I beat that by about $75,000. So I'm pretty happy about that. So this building, to talk about that here real quick. So I was driving by, this is about 5 minutes from my house, and I was driving by and I saw these new commercial condos being built. And I thought, I wanted to build my own office in a year or two. And then I saw these and I thought, man, this would be amazing. So I reached out to my commercial real estate agent that's in my BNI group, Katie, also. That's kind of funny. So Katie, I sent her an email and I was like, hey, I have this pipe dream of being able to buy this office. I don't know if it can happen or not. We started running through it, found the bank, found the SBA, the community development company that they do the SBA loans. There's two of them out here in my area that work with them. And the first one said no right away. And to be fair, I had only made $57,000 the first year in business. And actually that was gross. Net, I think, was at like, I deducted quite a few things in office expenses and stuff. And I think I lost like $16,000 on taxes in 2024. So they said no. The second company was more interested, and they said they were ready to go. They were going to do it. They had me fill out all of this information. They kept asking for more information, and I kept sending it. And at the end of the day, a week before we were supposed to close, they pulled out and said no. Fine. So what do I do now? I guess I stay in the SBA office. And actually, the developer that was building these buildings reached out and said, hey, how about you still go ahead and move in as a tenant, and we'll give you a sweetheart of a deal. You can keep the same price if you purchase it within a year, and all of the rent payments that you make for the next year will go towards your down payment. So very hard to say no to that. It was a little bit more, the rent itself would be a little bit more than what I would have been paying if I had just been able to mortgage it. But it worked out. We moved in June, and so we've been here, for the last 6 months or so. So I'm really excited about that. Hopefully in the next couple of months, we will get the loan completed and I will have purchased the office suite. So again, pretty happy overall with those results. And that's how it worked with that loan. That was a tedious process. And it was one thing that I knew how to deal with the financials and everything. If you're a business owner that's going through the financials aspects of trying to get a loan and your books are not kept up, I don't even know how you do it. It's hard. And so that's why you need somebody like me, right? That's why you need somebody with the experience of, one, getting loans, but two, know how to make the financials work, can show you a spreadsheet and help you complete it to be able to show the banks that you are, one, credit worthy, but two, that you're worthy of getting the loan and that it'll work out for your business and for them. So, okay, enough of that. So the way I'm organizing this episode and kind of going through the year in review, and the reason why I think you'll find it interesting is, one, you just kind of knowing, especially if you're an accountant or a bookkeeper or you want to be one or something, maybe this will be interesting to you. But even if you're not, even if you're my normal person that I target, the contractors and business owners or real estate investors, let's take a look at your business. Do a year in review for your business. Sit down tomorrow, Thursday, cup of coffee, whatever it is, and sit down and just do a quick year in review. And here's how I'm breaking it down. So number one was what worked. I'm going to break it down between marketing and operations. 2 is what didn't work, and really the same categories: marketing, operations. Biggest wins is number 3. Number 4 is biggest challenges. And then number 5 is moving forward. How do we fix it, right? Because it's one thing to review it and to look at what you did, but if there are some challenges, and there probably are always going to be challenges for you, right? There's, at least in my business, it seems like there's always challenges. While I'm pretty happy with the top line stuff, there was a lot that went into it that was a big challenge that we'll get into it. So what did work? Well, for marketing, what worked for me was BNI. Business Networking International is what it called. And basically it's a networking group. And so my particular networking group, I joined, it was May of 2024. And so I've been there for just a little over a year, and it represents about 50% of my business I get from that group. And so the way I look at it is called what I call the 6 degrees of BNI. You may have heard of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. This is the 6 degrees of BNI. And so if I meet somebody in my group, in my networking group, who then introduces me to somebody, who introduces me to somebody, so on and so forth until the 6th layer down, that to me is a BNI referral. It came from BNI. And when I track that, about 50% of my business starts there somehow. The other part that worked was my Dave Ramsey leads. So I am a tax professional with Dave Ramsey, and I own 35% of the Boise market. So that equates out to last year, 100, or this year, I guess still, 2025, I got 127 leads from them. That was a mixture between $40 to $60 per lead that I have to pay for. And my return on investment on that was just over 100%. So I made money on those, but not a lot. The goal, of course, is now I'm going to hold on to at least some of them for 2026 tax return. I know I'm going to lose some because there were a lot of people that they had moved here into the Boise market, and they only used a tax professional because they had sold their house in another state. They felt it was going to be too difficult to do their own taxes. And now that that's done, they're just going to go back to TurboTax. And so I know that there's several of those that have told me as much. So I'm not going to be able to retain all of them, or even the amount that I would normally expect to retain on those type of leads. But ultimately, I will have a very positive ROI from them, and then I'll continue to get more this year. And then what else? The chamber. So I'm a member of the Nampa Chamber. I was in the leadership the leadership class of 2025 for the chamber. That has helped me out pretty well. It's not a huge one. It's not really, I don't look at the chamber as being a leads group, right? That's not where I think I'm going to get a lot of business from, but I enjoy being a member of other small businesses. And so that is a membership that I will hold on to. And I do get business from it. People refer me to it. And when I go to chamber mixers and things like that, they remember me. And so then I get referrals from that. Referrals from current clients are huge. Of course, if you're doing the right thing, providing 5-star service, you're going to get referred from your current clients. And so that's been wonderful. And then also building relationships. I am a member of the Canyon County Regional Realtors. And so that's been great to work with realtors, mortgage professionals. If they need somebody to get their taxes done, to buy a house, they know they can call me and get it done quickly so that then they can get the house done. And so I get a lot of referrals from them. And then financial advisors, which that one, honestly, financial advisors can be tough to get referrals from. Some of them, either they've been working with somebody for a really long time and they guard that relationship, and I can appreciate that. Others, honestly, a lot of financial advisors, they don't have a lot of business. There's so many of them, I feel like, and they're trying to build their own book of business. And so a lot of times, if you are an aspiring bookkeeper or accountant, or you are one, you probably already know this, but a lot of the financial advisors, they'll like to say, like, are you already working with somebody? Basically, they're trying to get the business from you, right? They want all of those people that are doing tax returns. So find the ones that are good. I've got a couple of them that I really work well with. They give me referrals. I give them referrals. And I've got a good mix of kind of young and old, and who I feel like is going to be a good mix rather than just always giving it to one. I primarily give it to the person who is in my BNI group. He feeds me. I feed him. We're on our power team. But there is another person that I'll use on occasion when I feel like, hey, he might be a better fit for this kind of, for this type of person, or, whatever. So I do that too. So sorry, Andrew, if you're listening, you're not 100% the guy I talk to, but you're like 98%. Okay. Okay. Who else? Let's see here. All right. So that was it. So the lesson with marketing and with what worked was be willing to invest in what works. Know your numbers, know your KPIs, what's working there, right? What are working in your marketing efforts? Because now I'm going to talk about what didn't work. And it's really important to know what didn't work, right? Even more so than what did work. And what didn't work for me was Facebook ads. I ran a lot of Facebook ads. I spent thousands of dollars, over $10,000 this year in Facebook ads. I got some business from it. Definitely did not make a return on my investment there. The rule of thumb is that it takes at least 30 days of spending $100 a day, so $3,000, for the algorithm to just figure out who to get your message in front of. And even then, I don't know that it works. And the reason I say that is because if I start running Facebook ads for tax strategy clients, guess what I start seeing in my Facebook feed? Ads for tax strategy people, right? Like other tax strategists are suddenly giving me their ads. So Facebook has a hard time figuring out the algorithm, I feel like. And I'm not always getting I'm not getting the greatest quality leads. And so I don't know, maybe I needed to give it more time and throw more dollars at it, more Benjamins at it. But it was hard to continue to do so, especially when other things were working. So that one did not work for me. And then the other thing that didn't work, honestly, was this podcast. So far, anyways, I've gotten one lead from doing the podcast. We're at 121 downloads so far as of today. We have a little over 3,500 total views. It was 3,500 like a couple weeks ago. I didn't check it today, so I don't know exactly. But so it's maybe over 4,000 leads now, or views on YouTube. But, views, I'm not an influencer, right? So views does not equate into dollars for me. So that's one area that we are looking to grow. So far, it hasn't worked, but I'm definitely not pulling the plug on it. You're going to get to keep hearing from me. Don't you worry. And then the other thing that didn't work for me so far, anyways, I don't know, I'll probably end up pulling the plug on it if I'm being honest, is the Savvy CEO shop. I'm kind of bummed. I designed some really cool shirts. I thought people were going to dig them. And it's not really turning out as much as I thought. My wife is right. Not everybody wants to wear a shirt that says Savvy CEO, I guess. So, if it's something that sounds interesting to you, prove me wrong by going to savvyceoshop.com and buy a shirt on savvyceoshirt.com. And then I will know to keep it live. But if nobody goes and buys a shirt, I've sold one. If I'm being completely honest, I've sold one shirt. So, if we want to keep this alive, it costs me, I think it's $160 a month to keep the shop going with all the different tools or whatever with Shopify. So anyways, that's so far that has not worked for me. And then the lesson there is most business owners are flying blind. Things like profit first and getting really good cash flow clarity can help you with knowing your numbers, right? Those KPIs, knowing what's working, what's not. Cut it out. If it's not working, cut it out. I cut off Facebook ads. I have not advertised with Facebook in over 5 months, I think. But that wasn't until after it had already maxed out a couple of my credit cards, and it was getting kind of painful, honestly, to keep seeing that charge every day, $150 to $200 a day that I was spending and getting nothing really out of it, or very minimal out of it. I have a couple great clients that I did get out of it, but it's going to take a while before they help me to break even. Biggest challenges. By far, my biggest challenge this year has been staffing. As I've grown, I'm on my third client coordinator. I'm on my third accountant. I've had the same bookkeeper, bless you, Bobby. My senior bookkeeper has been with me from the very beginning. She is fantastic. I had an intern that I brought on from a high school last year. He called me up. He's in college now. He wanted a job, so he's my junior bookkeeper part-time. He's been helping me out, and he's been great. The current staff that I have now, I am super pleased with. I love Katie. I love Amy. They're doing great jobs with being my accountant and my client coordinator now, but I've had to go through a few and had one that had a medical emergency and just kind of vanished. And it turned out she was doing a lot of her own stuff that not necessarily like her own work, but just kind of doing her own, making her own decisions, I guess I should say, things that I didn't know about. And she wasn't documenting things very well. And so we'll get into this challenge here in a little bit with how do we move forward. But yeah, she wasn't documenting anything. And so when all of a sudden she was no longer available, like basically just left, I had to pick up the pieces, and it didn't look great for clients. Now, thankfully, I had some clients who were very understanding and understood that, these things happen. But at the end of the day, when I want to provide that savvy Ritz 5-star experience, that's not necessarily what they're getting if those kind of things are happening. And they're going to happen. You can't necessarily stop it or help it or anything like that. Medical emergencies and things are going to happen to everybody at some point, or it could happen to anybody. I mean, she was young, single mom. I don't want to get all into who it was or whatever, but it definitely disrupted my business. And then client coordinator, there's some issues there, and just getting work done. Looking at more of a junior position can be difficult as well, maturity, stuff like that. So that was definitely my biggest challenge. And then my time on the business versus in the business, right? E-Myth Revisited. If you've never read that book, great book by Michael Gerber, talks about working on your business versus in your business. Like right now doing this podcast, I'm working on the business. When those staffing challenges happen, I have to be more in the business. I have to be doing the tax returns myself. I have to be doing the bookkeeping myself and doing all those things that somebody else could be doing better probably while I'm working on the business and trying to grow. Who knows? I could have been a $500,000 business this year had staffing worked out well. I don't know. Probably not, but cash flow, you can grow broke, right? If you have clients coming on board that aren't paying you quickly, and this isn't so much in my business, but definitely with a lot of my clients' business, if you're getting paid monthly, or if you're getting paid every 2 months or 90 days, but you have to make payroll every 2 weeks, you can grow broke quickly. Because you've got all of these bills coming due before the money's coming in. So definitely a challenge, just overall with cash flow, moving, paying way too much in Facebook ads and coaching and all that kind of stuff. It can definitely get tight. So you want to definitely have profit first. Good systems in place is the key there. And you're not going to be perfect for everybody. I am definitely not perfect. I have made mistakes. In fact, 100% honesty, last night I got my first 1-star review, and it was a bummer to see, because I don't feel like I deserved 1 star. I probably did deserve 3 though. I did not perform 100% satisfactory it was not a 5-star Ritz experience for them. I understand that. I definitely take some culpability in that. They did come to me in the middle of tax season. I did the best that I could. I did get them. Everything was filed on time. And so the review, I feel like, is not 100% accurate. In fact, I know it's not 100% accurate. They claimed that there were $10,000 in fines that they had to pay because of me. That is definitely not true. You did not have $10,000 in fines because of what I did. You didn't pay the bill, maybe, and you got $10,000 in fines, but I filed the tax returns on time, so that's not possible. But I did not provide 100% great experience. So I do agree that, there was definitely some challenges there. But ultimately, my point is, without going too much into the soapbox on it, is, you're going to have these challenges. You're going to have these growth challenges. And one of the biggest ones for me was systems. I didn't have a great system because it was just me the year before. And so we weren't working in the cloud when I had multiple people doing tax returns and doing all these different things for the taxes. I'd have to go from like computer to computer to try to get it all done, rather than having a system that had it all in the cloud for us. And so that was a big challenge for us. And so we've invested heavily into getting that correct and getting the technology correct, so that won't be a challenge this year. And hopefully that'll be a better experience for everybody. I already know I'm not getting them as a renewal client, I understand, but I have continued to work on it so that I can provide that Savvy Grits experience. And I think that's the biggest lesson learned here is, how do you move forward? Okay, so you dropped the ball. How do you move forward? How do you make it right? And so that's kind of the goal there. Okay, moving forward, just like taxes aren't the surprise, lack of planning is. I think that's what comes into effect with business as well. We've got a plan. Motivation is fleeting, and it's not going to stick around for you forever. Being savvy is about ownership. And, the whole reason of the mantra that I have on this podcast, the name of the podcast, Savvy or Surrender, because I want you to be a savvy business owner and not to surrender. Being a business owner is not for everybody. I have a couple of clients right now that they probably are not going to stick with me in 2026 because they're not going to stay in business. One of them has already specifically said that they are just going to go back to being an employee. They found out business ownership's not for them. It isn't for everybody. It is difficult. If you've ever woken up at 3 a.m. trying to figure out how you're going to make payroll, or you're at the San Antonio airport and you're trying to figure out what line of credit you can use to be able to make payroll, not that I've been there or anything. No, definitely not. But, those kind of challenges that you have, that's what being a business owner is sometimes. And it's not all rosy. It's not all, yachts and private jets and whatever else the social media stars like to show you. Maybe it is for them, but, for most of my clients, it is not. And I know definitely for me, it's not. So again, take a look at this. Do a year in review for your business. What worked? What didn't work? Your biggest wins, your biggest challenges, and moving forward, how do we fix it? How do we put those systems in place? That's the biggest key. And I would say confidence comes from clarity, not motivation. Financial clarity gives you informed decision-making, cuts unnecessary costs, optimizes profitability, supports strategic planning, and strengthens risk management, kind of that SWOT analysis, right? Looking at your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats, all of those things. We help business owners to overcome a lot of those challenges, especially the financial challenges, not just simply helping you pay the least amount in taxes, which, hey, we can help you do that, but also giving you that cash flow clarity, helping you understand your financials so that you can make better business decisions. And it's not just simply about right now, but how do you change the generational wealth of your family through your business? That's ultimately my goal, is to help you to, why did you go into business to begin with? It probably was not to get to zero every year, right? It wasn't to spend every single dollar so that you paid nothing to Uncle Sam. If that was the goal, then tomorrow go out and buy a truck, I guess. But if your goal is to change the destiny, the financial destiny of your family, then that's what we're here for. And so if this sounds like something that you're interested in, give us a shot at doing a discovery call and seeing if it makes sense. You can go to meetwithsavvy.com, and I would love to be able to have a conversation with you and see if we are a fit for you. With that, have a fantastic new year. If you're already listening to this in the new year, I hope your new year was great, and we will talk to you more with future episodes in 2026.